Hello, this is Tim Campsell at Action Coach Business Coaching with my Survive and Thrive Business Spotlight series. The purpose is to interview local business owners and promote them through my social channels and email database, as well as provide coaching. This is a free service I'm doing because if we save every business, we save the economy. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Andrew. Welcome, Andrew. It's great to have you on the program today.
Good morning, Tim. Thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking of me.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in. Start with, tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your business.
Yeah, great. So, Tim, I spent the first 20 years of my career owning and leading manufacturing companies. I like to say I'm a recovering manufacturing engineer. So entrepreneurial at heart, those companies I led ranged from 20 employees to 110 employees. And 10 of those years was chief operating officer of my family's business, working for my father-in-law with my brother-in-law and dealing with a lot of dysfunction that comes in family business sometimes. In a fit of brilliance, Tim, just as the wheels were coming off the economy in 2008, I sold my shares back to the family and decided it'd be a great time to get into merger and acquisition work, right? And then nothing happened from 2008 to 2010 for me, as everybody worked to recover. But over the course of those 12 years, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of family-owned businesses, helped many of those folks through successful liquidity event and transaction, helped many of those folks acquire new companies or find growth capital to partner with. And a year ago, in November of 2019, a friend of mine that I had sent numerous clients to, a gentleman named Jim Coyle that was an EOS implementer, approached me and said, "Hey, you've got the skill set to help people implement EOS, and you've got a great business background to do this. Would you be interested in becoming an implementer?" Well, at that time I had 5 sell-side M&A clients, entrepreneurs that were all depending on me to help them achieve a liquidity event. And I said, yeah, I'd start to think about this and started to dig in and learn more about it. And then, Tim, in March, I started getting an unfortunate series of phone calls from both buyers and sellers that were seeing turbulence in their business model, or the buyers no longer had access to the debt capital as banks started to freeze up a little bit. And all those 5 projects went to the sidelines. And so I made a hard pivot and started learning what it took to become an EOS implementer in 2020.
Fantastic. So tell me then, who is your ideal client? Who do you serve? We call that your target audience.
Yeah, target audience are from a demographic standpoint is businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, typically with 10 to 250 employees. But honestly, when you're helping companies implement the entrepreneurial operating system, much more important is the psychographic, Tim, and that's business owners and leadership teams that are open and honest, willing to be vulnerable, and open to growth, right? Growth-minded folks maybe that feel like they've hit the ceiling, but people that are more afraid of the status quo than they are of becoming their best selves as a leadership team and as a company. From my experience also in helping family businesses transition, a lot of times when the founder or first generation is ready to exit the business, the management team or the kids don't have the capital to buy the business outright. And so mom and dad take a seller note to facilitate those transactions. And EOS is really a great system to help keep the family aligned and everybody united on the objectives there.
Great. So you mentioned COVID earlier. What's been the greatest impact that it's had on your business?
Well, certainly, in February, if you had asked me how my 2020 was going to go, I had a pretty clear vision. When you and I had coffee in April, that vision was much cloudier, right? So for me, it was more of a pivot to say, hey, over the past 12 years, I've been working with 3 to 5 clients at any given point. EOS has really been a blessing to me in that I can help a lot more people and a lot more companies kind of simultaneously. 2 things I've learned. One came from you and one's been an offshoot from it, but you shared with me using the connected tool to connect, to really leverage LinkedIn as a platform to meet and connect with new people. That, they're a young tech company based downtown Indianapolis, and you shared that information with me, and so that's been a great addition to my business development efforts. And the second thing is learning. So many of us that crave this face-to-face interaction and meeting for coffee or meeting for lunch, or meeting for after work drinks, a lot of that evaporated, right, in various periods of shutdown. And so what I did find is there are people that would be happy to talk to me via Zoom that might not have ever let me in their lobby, right? But Zoom has been a game changer, or Microsoft Teams, whatever platform you use, in terms of creating face-to-face introductions to people we don't know.
Isn't it interesting that pre-COVID, the option seemed to be a phone call or meet in person at a coffee shop? And so you generally did the coffee shop because phone call wasn't effective, right? And now all of a sudden, Zoom is something everybody's willing to do, but pre-COVID they weren't.
Right. The technology was there, but why we didn't use it, I don't know. But those two things I would say have been the biggest change for me in terms of how I'm, number one, getting in front of people for the first time, and then staying in front of them as needed.
Yeah. And isn't it also fortunate how much time we save? Because we don't have to drive back and forth, right? And tends to be, a Zoom meeting tends to be a little bit less time than a coffee meeting, right? So you're just being more efficient overall as well. Yeah,
and I've not dug in and looked at Starbucks, what their numbers are, but I'm sure they're cursing. The Starbucks people are cursing Zoom. They hit on their earnings because you and I aren't showing up in their in-person locations anymore.
Exactly. So Andrew, here's an interesting question. It's been said that smart people learn from their mistakes and wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So what mistakes have you made along the way that other entrepreneurs can learn from your experience?
Too many to learn. Don't get into the merger and acquisition business in the early stages of a global financial crisis. If I had that to do over again in 2008, I would have avoided that. Maybe Tim, what I'm learning as I help more companies through the EOS process is just how much I love the work. And it doesn't really seem like work to me. And that contrasts with the past 12 years, the way I've earned a living. And that, man, you know what? Life's too short for every day to feel like a grind for you. And so if I had it to do over, I would have invested more time in thinking, how does a certain role or a certain job or leading a business, how does that align or not align with my skill set and my personality?
Fantastic. Having that passion makes a huge difference.
It's a game changer for me to, as I've pivoted here, to get to the end of a day with a room full of clients and say, man, was that fun? That was really fun. Hard work. And you got people at the table tearing up, and leadership teams for the first time, maybe being really honest with each other. But man, at the end of the day, it was good work and it was really fun. And I don't have many days that I look back into M&A work where I can say it was fun. Honestly, only the days where I watch my clients get 7 figures transferred into their bank accounts, Those days are pretty fun.
So second last question here, Andrew. I'm going to get your contact information so that I can include that in this interview.
Sure.
But is there anything else that you'd like to add, or any offers that you have going on right now that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would say a couple things, Tim. But one of the things you and I talked about back in April, kind of really before we understood the true impact of COVID on what our year was going to look like, I was talking to you about the impact of private equity and family office investors on lower middle market companies all over the country. right? In that at the end of 2019, there was over $2 trillion, trillion with a T, of private equity capital seeking to get deployed as more and more founder-owned businesses, those founders begin to transition out. And what that means is, even as an entrepreneur or as a family, if you determine that you're not going to sell the business to one of those private capital groups, you need to have a plan, because they're likely to just go down the street and buy your competitor if they've determined that your sector is something they're interested in. Okay. And then COVID hits, and we all come to terms with our entrepreneurial-owned businesses have to get stronger and healthier at a faster clip than ever. And I personally believe EOS is the best way to do that. That's why I made the transition. In terms of an offer for anybody that's in your audience that reaches out to me, my offer is $1,000 off the focus day, which is the first full day in the EOS journey, which is typically a 2-year journey of about 12 sessions. So I'm offering $1,000 off that first session.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that that offer. Last question here, Andrew. Tell me, what has been most inspiring to you during all of this craziness of 2020?
Most inspiring. So my 80-year-old parents, Tim, both just got and recovered from COVID.
Wow.
Okay? My mom, growing up, my mom was an RN. And so as COVID rolled in, my mom instantly rolled back into her clinical nurse data-driven mode, okay? And they were very, very careful during COVID. I haven't gotten to hug my mother since February, when they kind of went on this self-imposed lockdown. And then unfortunately, October 23rd, my mom went to Card Club with some friends, and they all got COVID, right? So, but I was inspired to watch them kind of battle through it physically. My dad, fortunately, his symptoms were pretty light. My mom's, we were really fortunate. Neither of them ever got close to needing to go to the hospital. But man, I was inspired by watching them and their attitude once they got it. And I've always been inspired by them. And this was a unique chapter in that experience together as a family.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so happy to hear that they got through it and are on.
There are success stories. There are COVID success stories out there. That's right.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, thank you for your time. That concludes our interview today. For those listening, if you heard something during this interview that sparks your interest, if you'd like to take advantage of Andrew's $1,000 offer, I'll be including his contact information in this post. And for those who are just struggling in general, if you just want to talk to someone, I know both Andrew and myself would be more than happy to jump on a phone call and talk through any challenges or struggles that you're facing in your business today. Andrew, it's been a pleasure learning about you and your company, and I wish you tremendous success.
Great. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Have a great day.
You too, sir.